Heroes and hero myths are as old as human civilization itself. They exist in nearly every culture throughout time. Generally speaking, heroes reflect something of the culture that spawned them, the embodiment of ideas, morals, and beliefs. They give us something to look up to. They encourage and inspire us to look beyond ourselves towards something greater. And that is the reason they have to die. It's hard to deny it anymore. There is a concerted and ongoing effort to tear down and destroy our heroes, especially male heroes, in our recent pop culture. The most recent example comes from the new video game Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. Game developer Rocksteady had been held in high regard among gamers and comic book fans for their Arkham Knight game series, which brought the world of Batman to life in a new and compelling way. The Arkham games have received tons of accolades and praise over the years, so when it was announced that Rocksteady was going to make a Suicide Squad game, it immediately caught people's attention. That attention quickly soured when it was announced that the game would be a live service platform, rather than the standalone single-player experience gamers were used to from the studio. These troubles only multiplied the more Rocksteady showed off of their work in progress, until at last launch day drew near. People who paid extra for the special edition got early access to the game, and discovered yet another potentially fatal error. When Kill the Justice League went live for early access customers, it experienced another significant bug. Players logged in to the game for the first time to be greeted with a message that they had already achieved 100% completion. Before Rocksteady could pull the game offline, players managed to look at the end stages of the game. Footage quickly leaked of a cutscene in which the titular team of anti-heroes and villains have captured Batman. The iconic hero is beaten bloody and does nothing, while Harley Quinn lectures him on why he's really no different from the villains he once fought.
You had a good run, Brucey. Flying around Gotham, punching bad guys, cleaning up the streets, causing long-term mental and emotional damage to everyone you knew.
After her lecture, she summarily shoots him in the head. Not only is this a jarring end to a character Rocksteady has spent the last 15 years and many games building up, but it also shows a staggering lack of respect to a legacy hero. But if you've been paying attention to the pop culture over the last several years, you'll know this isn't anything new. Star Wars killed off Han Solo and Luke Skywalker. Masters of the Universe killed off He-Man in the first episode of his own show. John Connor, James Bond. One after another, Hollywood is killing off classic male heroes. Even when they don't physically kill them off, they find ways to destroy what they've always stood for. Doctor Who, Indiana Jones, Captain Picard, all of them ideologically assassinated by a fresh crop of writers who are either activists themselves or at the very least feel the need to bend the knee to activist ideology. But even when you've caught this pattern, the question remains, why? Why is there a systematic pursuit to destroy our heroes? Here is what I think the most likely reason is. A key point of commonality in a lot of activist thinking comes from identity politics and gender studies. In this worldview, heroes, and specifically male heroes, generally conform to archetypes that are derided as forms of toxic masculinity. The monomyth of the hero's journey is a symbol of the patriarchy, a male-dominated society. And so, these activists don't want their stories to conform to these centuries-old tried-and-true standards, because they don't want to be seen as playing into an ideology they oppose. Instead, they've sought to replace these centuries-old storytelling standards with something else. Remember, the hero myths of old often feature male characters, and encourage us to look above and beyond ourselves, which means these new hero myths, built in opposition, emphasize female heroes and focus almost entirely on the singular identity of the character. It is inward-focused and narcissistic. Here are a few examples of some recent heroes pushed in popular media. None of these characters follow the traditional hero archetype, but instead offer a cynical refutation, wherein the hero's greatest struggle isn't against an external foe so much as against some social order that seeks to oppress them. The completion of their journey isn't to overcome their own flaws, and so to evolve into a better version of themselves, willing to sacrifice for the sake of others, but instead to realize that they've always been great, thus achieving a greater self-actualization, which primarily serves only themselves. Needless to say, but these attempts at generating new archetypes haven't worked very well, because next to the classics, they are obviously inferior. That leads us not just to the rejection of traditional storytelling, but the need to tear it down, to destroy these concepts so they can no longer put their new creations to shame. But concepts and principles are really ideas, and ideas are resistant to challenges and attacks. People are less resilient, even more so fictional characters, that can be reformed and reshaped based on the whims of producers and writers. like the writers from Sweet Baby Inc., who Rocksteady hired to help them desecrate DC's greatest heroes. Now, to address the elephant in the room, I will admit that yes, within Rocksteady's game is the founding premise of killing members of the Justice League. That by itself isn't a problem, because DC has a long history of killing off characters and then bringing them back. But how you do something is just as important, if not more important, than what you do. And the death of Batman in this game is obviously meant to carry a message. Batman is supposed to be a symbol of integrity, justice, and masculinity. But as seen through Harley's rant, he represents abuse, oppression, and corruption. He's still meant to represent the same principles, but through him, those principles are maligned as negative and then put to death. For contrast, look at how the game treats Wonder Woman, who doesn't fall prey to Brainiac's mind control and gets a heroic send-off fighting to protect people from those she once called friends. See, you can tell the story about the death of a hero, and do it in a way that the fans want to see. One that honors the character and what they represent. We want the end of such characters to have meaning and worth, once they've passed their standard on for another to pick up, or else in an epic display of sacrifice to protect others. When you treat characters the way Rocksteady has treated Batman and other members of the Justice League, when you look at the treatment of all the characters I mentioned earlier, then you come to understand another intent is at work, one that does not want to honor the characters or what they represent. Instead, they want to subvert those qualities and present something else.
Or are you a castaway, grasping for a handhold in a tempest? There is a tempest in me. I'm all the Jedi.
So, if you should see the pushback against Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, know that it is only part of a bigger movement. A movement that is opposed to the destruction of our heroes. But what these activists have failed to understand is that killing off our favorite heroes and franchises is not going to make us like their crappy replacements anymore. Once fans have given up on the things they used to love, they are not going to migrate over to the new sludge activists try to pump out, and they will be left with nothing but the ruin of their own making. But what do you think? Do you like Kill the Justice League? Do you hate it? Leave a comment below, like the video, and remember to subscribe so you'll get all the latest updates from Rebel Normal.